What seemed like an ordinary afternoon turned into a nightmare when your daughter suddenly collapsed on the school playground. Under the harsh hospital lights, the doctor explained that her small heart needed urgent surgery, the cost rising beyond imagination. You thought of the $75,000 you had given your parents last year to help their business, money your late husband left behind, meant to protect your child's future, promised to be repaid. But when you went to them, you found only glittering chandeliers, luxury cars, and your brother's lavish engagement dinner. And then came the cold denial. It was a gift. From that moment, you knew the truth had to come out. If you value powerful revenge stories, please like and subscribe to join the journey. You walked out of that glittering house, the echoes of wedding music still slicing through your heart like glass. Your little girl lay in a hospital bed, her breaths fragile, while your own parents, the people who should have been your pillars, turned away, treating the money that could save her as if it were a gift, spent on flowers, rings, and reputation. Behind the steering wheel, your hands trembled, but deep inside, a fire had been lit. You would not let the truth remain buried. The next day, you returned to the hospital. The cold fluorescent lights washed over the bed where your daughter slept, clutching her small stuffed bear. You sat beside her, remembering the words your late husband whispered before he left this world forever. "This money is for Lila. Promise me you'll protect her." That promise now rang louder than ever, turning into strength to face the fear tightening around your chest. Dr. Brennan walked in, his face lined with concern but softened by empathy. He handed you a sheet outlining the surgery costs. Insurance would cover part, but a massive balance still remained. The number was more than a debt, it was a wall between your daughter and her future. You looked down at her small hand resting in yours, and a storm swelled inside. How could your parents choose a banquet over her heartbeat? You lifted the phone again. The call rang and rang. No answer. You left a voicemail, voice breaking. Then another call. Still nothing. By the fourth time, silence felt heavier than rejection. You asked yourself, what hurts more, harsh words, or the silence of your own family? Close quote. That evening, you gathered the courage to walk back into the house. The same walls that once sheltered your childhood now stood like a fortress, lit with chandeliers and filled with polished laughter. When you entered, your parents' eyes carried more irritation than concern. You showed them the bank transfer, the texts where they promised repayment. But it was dismissed with one cold phrase. It was a gift. Your chest tightened. A gift? No. It was blood, sweat, the last legacy of your husband. You looked around at the crystal glasses, the decadent meals, the extravagant flowers for your brother's engagement dinner. Every detail screamed of betrayal. You felt the room close in, your heart cracking wider with every second. You left in silence, but every step out the door carved your resolve deeper. This fight wasn't just about money. It was about justice for your daughter, for your husband's memory, and for yourself. Back at the hospital, your in-laws, Robert and Diane, listened to your story. They didn't hesitate. Robert placed his weathered hand over yours, his voice steady. "We'll find a way." Diane wrapped you in an embrace, her presence a warmth you had almost forgotten. In that moment, you realized, family isn't only about blood. It's about who chooses to stand beside you when the storm comes. The days that followed were relentless. Robert mortgaged his old cabin in Idaho. Diane called the hospital, chasing every assistance program. You sat at your laptop, gathering documents, lining up every text and transfer like soldiers in a row. While your parents poured hundreds of thousands into a dream wedding, you and your chosen family were scraping together hope to save a child's life. One morning, Diane slid a printout across the table. It was your mother's social media post, showing off a wedding budget. $45,000 for the venue, $22,000 for a ring, $38,000 for flowers. Total, nearly $280,000. Your breath caught. The caption beneath cut even deeper. "Thanks to Candace's generosity, this dream is possible." The words stabbed like knives. They hadn't just taken your money. They had turned your sacrifice into a public brag, painting you as the benefactor of their extravagance. You clenched the papers in your hand, fury rising. This was no longer just pain, it was proof. That same week, Martha Wells, a longtime friend of your mother, visited you at the hospital. She leaned close, her voice hushed. Your father was drowning in gambling debts, your mother buried in luxury spending, their business failing for years. Your chest went cold. Their betrayal wasn't an accident. It had been planned, piece by piece. From the moment your husband's life insurance became known, they had seen it not as security for their granddaughter, but as opportunity for themselves. You sat at your daughter's bedside, watching her chest rise and fall under the rhythm of monitors. She smiled faintly in her sleep, unaware of the storm outside her hospital room. In that moment, the truth crystallized. They might be your parents, but they were no longer your family. You inhaled deeply, straightened your shoulders, and made a vow. "I will do everything to bring the truth into the light." Dear listener, if you have ever felt abandoned by those you trusted most, you know how piercing that silence can be. Tell me in the comments. Do you believe love or fairness matters more in a family? And if stories like this move you, if you want to follow more journeys of resilience and truth, consider giving a gentle like and subscribe. It helps us continue bringing you revenge stories that touch the heart and remind us what real family truly means. 3 days after that confrontation at the engagement dinner, you sat in Robert and Diane's living room. Spread across the coffee table were hospital invoices, insurance breakdowns, unanswered calls, and ignored messages. Each document carried the weight of your daughter's fragile heartbeat. Robert placed his iPad in front of you. On the screen was your mother's social media post. A polished wedding mood board. The numbers glared back: $45,000 for the venue, $22,000 for a custom ring, $38,000 for flowers. Nearly $280,000 in total, posted just 3 weeks after you had transferred the money. Diane, calm but firm, touched your shoulder. Look at the date. Proof, plain and undeniable, that they had never intended to pay you back. Your hand crumpled the paper until the edges wrinkled. Memories returned with brutal clarity. Your parents' absence at Daniel's funeral, their sudden interest in your life whenever money was mentioned, their honey-sweet promises that turned bitter with time. All the pieces fit together now, forming a chilling pattern. Not long after, Martha Wells visited the hospital. She sat nervously by Lila's bed, her hands twisting the pearls around her wrist. Your father owes more than $120,000 in gambling debts, she whispered. Your mother, she hasn't stopped shopping. New handbags, jewelry, clothes. The business hasn't been healthy in years. They've been holding it together with loans and appearances. Martha's eyes softened, filling with tears. They're terrified of losing their social standing. And when people are desperate, they can make choices that hurt the very ones they should protect. You didn't cry. The tears had run dry. Instead, you felt a numbness seep in, deeper than sadness. This wasn't weakness. It was calculation. From the very beginning, they had chosen their image over their granddaughter's life. During those long days at the hospital, you discovered who your real family was. Robert mortgaged his retirement cabin. Diane spent hours coordinating paperwork and reaching out to foundations. Your design team, Jessica and Marcus, kept your company afloat without being asked. No one was obligated, yet each one chose to stand with you. That choice meant everything. One evening, Diane handed you a folder from the hospital. Inside was confirmation from the Children's Heart Foundation. 30% of the surgery costs would be covered. With the hospital's hardship program, the gap narrowed even further. But $20,000 still loomed like a wall in front of you. Smaller, yes, but still an impossible sum when your child's life depended on it. Then came an unexpected revelation. Your mother's engagement post flaunted Lauren's new ring, captioned, "Grandmother's diamonds," now carried forward. You leaned closer. The distinctive pattern of stones was unmistakable. Those were the very diamonds your grandmother had promised to you. Not just a betrayal of money, but of legacy. And suddenly, you saw a new path. If your parents valued reputation above all else, then truth needed to be exposed where their reputation mattered most. You resolved to confront them, not in private pleas, but in the very halls where they sought admiration. That week, you entered the Portland Heights charity luncheon. Crystal glasses sparkled under chandeliers, a string quartet played softly, and conversations hummed like a well-rehearsed script. Diane walked beside you, steady as a lighthouse. Together, you approached your parents' table. Your father's laughter faltered mid-sentence. Your mother's smile froze. "What a surprise," she said, too sweet, too rehearsed. You smiled politely, opened your leather folder, and laid out the hospital's documents. Lila still needs $20,000 for her surgery. Here are the foundation confirmations and payment deadlines. I'm asking you, once again, to honor your promise. The chatter around the table fell silent. Businessmen shifted uncomfortably. A woman in a gold bracelet glanced from the papers to your mother's face. Under the weight of those stares, your mother's hand trembled. She pulled out her checkbook, her pen scratching across the page with visible reluctance. "This doesn't mean we agree with your version," she muttered, sliding the check forward. "But I won't have family matters aired in public." Your father's jaw tightened, his knuckles white against the tablecloth. But he said nothing. The mask of control cracked. You accepted the check, not with triumph but with a heavy heart. It wasn't relief from betrayal, only the assurance that your daughter would have a chance. Because in that moment, the lies had begun to unravel in front of the very people they had fought so hard to impress. Back at the hospital, you handed the check to the financial department. Lila clutched her teddy bear close, naming him brave because he would go through surgery just like her. You brushed her hair back gently, marveling at her innocence. She had no idea of the battles raging around her, no understanding of the sacrifices strangers were making in her name. And perhaps that was for the best. Watching her drift to sleep, you whispered a vow. You would never let betrayal silence you again. Not from the people who call themselves family. Not from anyone. Dear friends, sometimes the truth is not in the promises spoken at the dinner table, but in the choices made when everything is on the line. What do you believe defines real family blood, or the willingness to stand beside you in your darkest hour? If this journey resonates with you, tap the like button in your own quiet way. Your support helps us share more revenge stories that reveal the strength born from betrayal and the courage to fight back. 1 month after Lila's successful surgery, you sat by the office window, watching Portland's heavy rain blur against the glass. In front of you lay the freshly signed contract with the Waterfront Hotel Group, $500,000. It wasn't just a project. It was proof that even in the middle of a storm, you had built something stable. On the desk rested a brown folder Robert had handed you. Inside were text messages from your parents promising repayment, alongside records of the original transfer. Each page felt like a puzzle piece, forming a larger picture. Across from you, Diane carefully documented every broken promise. She looked up, her eyes unwavering. They've always hidden behind reputation, close quote, she said. But that reputation is their weakness, too. You nodded. The plan was taking shape. No more private pleas, no more quiet confrontations. This time, the truth had to be revealed on the grandest stage. Robert leaned forward, his voice steady. They're about to receive the Family Business Legacy Award at the regional ceremony. That's where it needs to happen. The thought left you silent. That event would gather the entire Portland business elite, the very world your parents craved to impress. In the weeks that followed, Marcus dug deeper into your family's woodworking company. The results were grim, though not surprising. 3 major suppliers had cut ties due to unpaid invoices. Clients were quietly pulling back. The enduring legacy your parents showcased so proudly was nothing more than a polished veneer over crumbling foundations. 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 More than a polished veneer over crumbling foundation. Meanwhile, Jessica, your design lead, gathered letters from loyal clients. They vouched for your firm's professionalism, for the steady growth your parents now tried to smear. Because by then, the attacks had begun. One afternoon, your phone rang. It was Warren Hastings, your largest client. His voice was hesitant. Your father reached out. He said your firm is on the brink of collapse. Is that true? Close quote. You steadied your breath, explained the numbers, assured him with facts. Still, the fury burned inside you. It wasn't enough that they had withheld the money, now they were poisoning your livelihood. The very next day, another call came. This time from the Ethics Committee of the American Society of Interior Designers. A complaint had been filed against your company for client neglect and financial instability. The filer, your own father, disguising it as paternal concern. You sat frozen in your chair after the call, staring at the wall. The ache was sharp, but then something hardened within you. If they wanted a public battle, you would give them one. Calmly, you phoned your attorney, demanding a formal response with every shred of proof: bank records, completed contracts, financial reports. That night, Brandon called. His voice was sharp, brimming with anger. Why are you smearing Mom and Dad? They said you are jealous of my wedding, that you want to ruin it. You closed your eyes, drawing in a deep breath before answering. Brandon, ask them where your wedding money came from. Look at the contracts, the deposits, the bank statements. And talk to Lauren. Her family was approached, too. There was silence on the line. Finally, Brandon's voice dropped to a whisper. She did say they asked for money. I'll check. He hung up, leaving you with equal parts sorrow and hope. He deserved the truth, even if it broke him. In the days that followed, your team worked tirelessly. Diane compiled every document into a timeline. Robert reached out to your father's old associates, several were ready to testify about past manipulations. Marcus assembled a financial map, tracing the $75,000 you had loaned directly to wedding vendor deposits within weeks. The night before the ceremony, you spread every file across the dining table. Transfer receipts, text messages, florist contracts, caterer invoices, Lila's medical records. Each sheet of paper was a blade, cutting deeper into memory. You placed Daniel's photo at the head of the table, his smile steady, his voice echoing in your heart. Protect her, no matter what. The next morning, you dressed differently. No more muted tones of appeasement. Instead, you chose a strong, confident outfit, armor for the battle ahead. Outside a Windsor hotel, the rare Portland sun broke through, as though to mark the significance of the day. Inside, the ballroom glittered with chandeliers. Hundreds of executives, socialites, and politicians filled the space. At the front table sat your parents, radiant under the lights. You saw your father straighten his tie, your mother beam with rehearsed warmth. To them, tonight was victory, a coronation of everything they had sacrificed for image. But you knew better. Tonight, the light would shift. The Windsor Hotel ballroom shimmered that night, its chandeliers scattering golden light across polished wood and crisp linen. Every table was dressed with gleaming glassware, every chair filled with Portland's most prominent business leaders. It was a stage my parents had long dreamed of, a place where image mattered more than truth. I walked in flanked by Robert and Diane, Brandon and Lauren, Marcus and Jessica. My daughter's struggle had brought us together, and now we stood as one. My parents spotted us from across the room, their laughter freezing mid-sentence. My father adjusted his tie. My mother tightened her grip on her champagne glass. They knew why I had come. The evening progressed with polite applause and practiced smiles. My parents beamed as the host announced the Family Business Legacy Award. The audience listened as the chairman praised Matthew's fine woodworking for integrity, vision, and sacrifice. Applause rose like thunder, and my parents rose with it, gliding to the podium as if they belonged in the spotlight. My father's voice carried smooth authority. "Success in business requires difficult choices," he declared. My mother followed with her own well-rehearsed lines. "Nothing matters more than supporting our children, even when they take paths we do not always understand." The words cut deep, polished lies presented as family values. My fists clenched at my side. Around me, Brandon's knuckles whitened against the chair back. The time had come. When the chairman invited questions from the floor, silence fell like a curtain. I rose and stepped to the microphone, heels echoing against the ballroom floor. "Could you explain," I asked, my voice steady, "how my husband's life insurance was used to fund my brother's wedding?" Gasps rippled through the room. My father froze, his practiced smile stiffening into stone. Before he could speak, I connected my tablet to the projector. On the screen appeared a $75,000 transfer from my account to theirs, complete with timestamps. Then came the text messages, promising repayment within a year. Another swipe revealed medical records, Lila's diagnosis, the staggering costs of her surgery. "And this," I continued, "is my parents' response when I begged for repayment to save my daughter's life." The images of ignored calls and dismissive messages filled the screen. Murmurs erupted among the guests. My parents' facade cracked under the weight of truth. I advanced to the next slide. Invoices for Brandon's wedding, totaling $280,000. Flowers costing more than the deductible of my daughter's surgery. A venue that drained what could have been her lifeline. "I didn't know," Brandon's voice broke the silence as he stepped forward, trembling. "I never knew where the money came from." His fiancée slipped the ring from her finger. "These diamonds were meant for Candace," she said, her voice clear. Lauren's father rose, fury in his eyes. "Harold, Evelyn, you solicited funds from me as well, claiming it was an investment. Was that money also stolen from your granddaughter's future?" The ballroom shifted, attention now trained not on admiration, but outrage. My parents scrambled for words. My father stammered about misunderstandings. My mother insisted insurance covered everything. But her voice faltered as Robert rose from our table. "Your daughter mortgaged our retirement cabin," he said, his voice cutting through the din, "because you refused to return money meant for your granddaughter's surgery." The room erupted. Guests leaned back from my parents, distancing themselves from the disgrace unraveling on stage. The award committee huddled in whispers, then announced the honor would be rescinded immediately. My father's face drained of color. Bank representatives in the crowd confirmed loans tied to the award would be reevaluated. Other investors demanded answers. My parents, once a picture of prestige, stood isolated beneath the chandeliers, stripped of the very reputation they had sacrificed everything to protect. The fallout continued in the lobby. Business leaders approached me with quiet respect. Some offered contracts, others offered encouragement. My parents slipped away into the night, shoulders slumped, their legacy collapsing under the truth they tried so hard to bury. The next week, ripples spread further. News articles highlighted the confrontation. Clients commended my company's integrity, some even signing new deals in direct response. The hospital foundation invited me to join their advisory board. For once, the narrative was mine, not theirs. Meanwhile, my parents' world unraveled. Loan approvals were revoked. Former associates came forward with stories of unpaid debts. The country club whispered about gambling losses and extravagant spending. Their once manicured image dissolved, leaving only the wreckage they created. At home, Lila recovered with remarkable strength, her heart healing as music returned to her life. She played piano with Robert at her side, Diane cooking in the kitchen, Brandon and Lauren visiting, often with fresh honesty in their eyes. One evening, as string lights glowed above our backyard, I looked around the table. Lila laughed with Lauren over watercolors. Brandon spoke quietly with Robert about rebuilding trust. Diane passed me lasagna, her eyes warm with quiet pride. It struck me then the family I needed was not the one I was born into, but the one that chose to stand beside me. The ones who showed up when everything was falling apart. My parents' absence lingered like an empty chair, but I no longer ached for their approval. The truth had set me free, and the people who mattered most filled the silence they left behind. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, legal battles, financial loose ends, but tonight, beneath the soft hum of laughter and the glow of lights, I felt something I hadn't in years. Security. And as I watched my daughter, her small hands moving confidently across the piano keys, I knew, no matter how much they tried to destroy me, I had already won. 1 year after the surgery, the sky seemed brighter over Candace and Lila's lives. Their new home echoed with the sound of piano keys, Lila's small hands dancing across them, each melody a testament to resilience and love. Robert and Diane now lived nearby, turning family dinners into warm traditions. Brandon and Lauren, humbled by the truth, learned that genuine bonds mattered more than glittering appearances. What once left Candace trembling in despair had become the very strength she used to build a future, her business thriving, and the Daniel Foundation established to support children in need, ensuring no family would have to weather such storms alone. The absence of her parents was no longer a wound, but a reminder. Sometimes real family is not defined by blood, but by those who choose to stand by you. Watching Lila's eyes sparkle as she played, the story closed not in bitterness, but in rebirth. If this journey moved you, and you want to continue exploring powerful revenge stories filled with strength and redemption, gently tap like and subscribe. That single action is enough to